Hello, and welcome to Here's the Thing with Robbie and Jose, where we explore relationships through a male and female perspective. With me, as always, is the lovely Robbie.
Hello, Jose.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm doing well.
We got a little rain.
Yeah.
Yay!
Yay.
It's fascinating what the little things that you find so amusing.
Yeah.
But I like to take pleasure in the little things. I
Yeah.
really do. Um, so today, hot topic, dangerous ground, but I think we'll navigate it just fine. But we got to do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we deal in relationships here and all different kinds. And this particular one, we wanted to talk about office relationships or workplace relationships. I shouldn't say office, right? Because
Yeah.
I'm assuming in like other like manufacturing and things like that, I'm sure things happen out in the warehouses too.
Mm-hmm.
So so workplace romances.
Yeah.
You ready?
Yes, I'm ready. I feel like most people will be able to relate. I mean,
I think a lot of people will be able to relate. So
yeah.
like, whew, put your seatbelt on, cause
Yes. Here we go.
here we go. So before we get started or go into deep, I made some notes, obviously, in what we're going to talk about. And in addition to that, I also kind of pulled some things from the internet, a couple of surveys and statistics. And there is like, they did do the scientific thing of like they had X amount of people and then
Mm-hmm.
they bumped it up against a whole bunch of stuff. But, anyways, we're not going to do verbatim, but some of the things kind of already mirrored what I already knew,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, first of all, it turns out that like more than half of people have workplace
Yeah, I
relationships.
mean, like, I know we have online dating, but as an adult, like when you're done with school and stuff like that, like where you don't really meet people organically anymore. And so, like, honestly, your work people, you're going to be around them the most
Yes.
likely.
Hmm.
So, like, if you don't want to do online dating, I guess you're probably going to date someone from work.
Yeah. So I mean, and that's actually an interesting point, right? So they're when they did the statistic and when they came up with these figures, they said just exactly that. It's the people that you interact with the most.
Mm.
Here's what's more interesting too, and part of in that research they were looking at it, and it turns out just being around somebody makes you more attracted to them.
Hmm.
So, in other words, where let's say when you first initially meet one of your coworkers, let's just say that you thought, yeah, whatever,
Uh-huh.
it's cool. But then if you spend a significant amount of time day in and day out, hours and hours and hours build up, that person becomes maybe attraction might not be the word,
Mm.
but you do start to prefer that person versus other whatever, right? Because there's something that happens just being around them
Mm.
makes them more, which I'm kind of thinking like maybe actors is maybe the
Oh,
equivalent.
yeah. You see a lot of people that start dating after a movie.
well, well, you think about it, right? Like, let's say somebody's on a TV show and you
Mm.
see them day in and day out, or not day in, but like every week,
Uh-huh.
they probably become more attractive after a while because you're just like used to
Oh,
seeing
I was
them
thinking
all the
about the
time.
actual actors.
Well, no, yeah, with the actors, right? They become more attractive because you see them all the time, so they
No, I'm
become
talking about
cuter.
two actors who are doing a movie together that because you're working
Oh,
with
I see what
them,
you're saying.
then
Yeah,
they, after
yeah,
the movie comes out, they're like, yay, we're in a
yeah.
relationship
No,
now.
that happens a lot on the Spider-Man movies.
Oh,
Like each one of the Spider-Man movies, whether it's Tobey Maguire
uh-huh,
and I believe it was Kirsten Dunst,
uh-huh.
they either just started dating after the movie or
Yeah.
during the movie.
It happens a lot.
Yeah, and then James, I don't know what's his name, Garfield. I can't remember what his first name is, but the other Spider-Man, he started dating. I think it's Emma Stone. I think is the actress that played Mary Jane. Anyways, they started dating thereafter,
Uh-huh.
and even the new one, the new Spider-Man guy was dating the girl from Euphoria. I can't remember her name,
Was
but
she was she on there on the
yeah,
movie?
yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Maybe
So
it's a Spider-Man curse, but like a good thing.
I it seems to work out. But there's a lot of different factors in that. Again, you're seeing them day in and day out.
Zendaya, that's her name. I
Yeah,
just
there you go,
remembered it.
Zendaya. Okay, and I think his name is
Something Holland.
yeah, something Holland.
Yeah, he's super cute.
Okay,
I really I really like that guy.
it's because he's Spider Man.
No,
No, no, he
because
is actually a good
yeah,
looking kid.
yeah.
But nevertheless, you see them every day. So let's say you work with them, and let's say they're really genuinely nice people. They
Mm,
become even more attractive. So you start to develop things for them. So I
yeah.
can kind of see that. And in addition to that, here's the other factor: is that you spend so much time at work. So like, if you have a partner and that partner doesn't do the same thing that you do, or even in the same industry,
Yeah.
it could be hard sometimes because you can talk to them about it, but
Yeah.
they're not really going to get it. You know what I mean? Especially on like all the little nuances or
Yeah, I
intricate
have an
parts.
example of that. If you work in corporate America
Yeah.
and you're with someone who doesn't and has never,
Yeah.
they'll never understand.
They don't
There is a
understand.
culture with,
Potlucks. What is a potluck?
yeah, like it's so different. There's no way you can explain corporate America, not even just the people, but like how it works,
Yeah.
promotions and all. Like you can't
Yeah.
explain that to someone who
The
doesn't.
politics that are involved in that.
Exactly.
Like, oh,
They're like, "What do you
yeesh.
mean you just don't see that person or whatever?" It's like, "No, dude, it's not like
Yeah.
that." Like,
And they used to always give me crap about it because I was one of the first ones to have like an office gig,
uh-huh.
instead of manufacturing. And they used to, you just sit there all day long. And I'm like, no, I don't. I used to defend it quite. I was like, no, I do other stuff, blah, blah. But then now I'm like, yeah, I kind of do.
I had that one time. One time I was working at a loan company and I had a customer come in and I was drinking like a energy drink. It was like a Red Bull or something.
Ooh,
And the guy was like, "Why are you drinking an energy drink? You just sit there all day. You don't even have a laborer's job." And I was like,
shut up.
"Well," like, but I remember that I was like, it's really rude, but I was just like, I'm assuming that he had like a labor job, right? But he
Yeah.
comes in there and it's like, here's this girl sitting in a chair all day. Why do you need an energy drink?
Because I got to wake up,
Yeah, this
man.
is boring.
It was last night I went out, we were partying, and you just have no idea. I can't just fall asleep here. I got to stay awake. At least you're out there walking
Yeah.
around and doing stuff, fool. No, but no, absolutely. But I will say this much, because I've had both, right? I know we're not talking about work; it's work relations, but I feel more drained doing something where I have to like constantly be thinking about stuff
Yeah.
versus
The
being out and about. Like you have to. I'm not saying that when you're in manufacturing you're not thinking,
yeah.
but I'm just saying like
You're saying mentally tired is greater for you than being physically tired.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Because I mean the physical. I mean it's always nice you feel fulfilled, but at the end of the day, here's the part about when you work in office, it's hard to turn off your brain
Yeah.
because then because like if you're a manufacturer or if you're building a house or you're a carpenter, whatever,
Mhm.
like you can think about it, but there's nothing you can do until you get back. But nowadays, you just have to log back on and like, it's hard. It's
I forgot to
hard,
send that email. Let me
right?
log back
Exactly.
on. It's like midnight.
And the thing about it is too, even if because you have that common bond. So a you're spending a significant amount of time together,
Mm.
and then b you have that common bond that you both are in the same industry and you can
You
relate
know
and
all the same
understand. Yeah.
people. Mhm.
So there's it's hard. It's hard. It's hard because that bond starts to form, whether
Yeah.
you like it or not. But therein lies the problem where you're at work.
Yeah.
And, just like in high school,
Yeah.
you can't get away from
Yeah, you
they're
can't
gonna
get
be
caught behind the
there.
bleachers.
I mean, well, yeah, in the office, in the copy room.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be
Yeah.
awkward. Which probably is. I mean, I don't know, like office parties. A
Oh, yeah.
lot of things
Oh,
happen at office parties for that
yeah.
reason. Because
The next day after a party is like the best day to go to work. You're like, "Oh my god."
no, it's not.
Yeah, because you get all the tea. You hear oh,
Well,
Randy
so
over
long as
there.
you weren't involved in anything, yes.
Oh, yeah, for
But
sure.
if
I
you
am speak
drank a little too much
Yeah.
and you couldn't hold your tongue or you couldn't control yourself,
Yeah. I'm talking about the people who didn't do anything wrong or who weren't there and they're hearing about it the next
they don't
day.
need to hear about it. You either were there or you don't hear about it. But no, I absolutely, it's tough. And with that, right? So here's the other thing, and I don't even know this myself, but most people don't know their company policy on relationships.
Mm,
So that's the other. I don't know that people research that, and I'm assuming there's something in every handbook and every code of
yeah.
conduct. I'm assuming. I just don't know to what extent they go into like what you can and cannot do.
Yeah, I've never looked that up, but in my moral compass, I would feel like anyone that you're reporting to, you probably shouldn't date that person.
Well,
It's, but other than that, I mean, if I'm not like, looking at their work or anything like that, you know what I mean? So,
yeah. Well, and here's the other thing too, right? And this is not a part of any statistic or anything like that, but I just kind of started thinking about it and was like, um, the other thing is even just flirting with somebody.
mm,
So you can't help it, right? Like a very innocent, nice compliment.
Uh-huh.
can easily,
Turn into an HR problem?
well, it could actually, that could actually happen, but it also could also start going over the border of flirting,
Mm.
right? And so I don't know. In this day and age, it's rough, right? And I'm not talking about like a weird sick.
Yeah, innocent flirting, it's
Right,
sweet
right,
and
right,
cute and
right,
it's fine. I
right.
mean,
And I think that only comes with, especially if you're familiar with the person, right?
yeah.
But therein lies the problem, is that you're making that, you're crossing that line into a
Yeah.
flirtatious thing. It's hard sometimes because you're working with them
I know,
every
but let me
day.
tell for the guys out there, if you don't interact with that person, the woman, very much, and then all of a sudden you start to flirt with her, we typically will see that as creepy. It's
Well,
not
sure.
creepy if, I'm working next to you or we working together, but yeah, if it's just some weird dude in the coffee
It's
room.
constantly stalking you and going up to your desk.
Well, I mean just that. I mean just like someone, I don't know, that maybe you just never really interacted with. And then I don't know, it just seems
But that
creepy.
that happens too, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Where, let's say you maybe don't have anything, like, you, work wise, you don't really work in the same
Right.
area.
Department or with
Yeah, but somehow that person gets a little more friendlier and comes to see you at your desk, even though they have no reason to
yeah.
come see you
That
at your
happens.
desk.
Yeah.
I think when that happens, I think that's usually the first, because why would you hang
Yeah.
out over here
That's true.
on this side? Now,
Yeah.
again, if you have mutual friends, maybe perhaps, but yeah, it's those guys that figure out.
Like, you don't even work on this floor. What are you doing over here?
And then, honestly, sometimes they think of new things just to bug you, because instant messenger is a thing and stuff.
Oh
So,
yeah.
like, they'll think of anything, like, oh man, it's crazy weather, the rain, right?
Or they'll like, what if they like make up something like that they need to ask you work related, but it's like that to get your foot in there. You know what I
that
mean?
that happens too. I'm not
Hey,
gonna
do
lie,
you
I've
work
done
with
that
this
before.
system? And you're like, no, who are you? Like,
But let's just kind of play that along, right? So then, and let's just say, for the sake of this particular analogy, right? You're both single adults, right?
hmm
Not married or in committed relationships.
hmm
Let's just put that out there,
okay.
because we're gonna dive into all the other ones
Yeah.
that goes along with that. But let's say, again, you're single, you're, uncommitted, whatever, and you see the other person and you're like, okay, sure, right? Like, the
Okay.
person's cute. Let's say it's me, right? And I'm like, okay, she's cute. I can feel her flirting with me,
Mm.
and like, she finally asked me out on Friday night. Hey, what are you doing? And I'm like, oh, nothing. It's like, hey, let's go have drinks, or let's go happy hour, a group, right?
Uh-huh.
Which, don't get me wrong. Here's the thing, and I understand that sometimes that will happen, and it's a genuine invitation, just because maybe you look like you're just by yourself, right? Maybe they do
Mm.
want to enjoy your company as a group.
Yeah.
So that doesn't necessarily mean that she wants to get with you or
Yeah.
anything
She
like
may
that.
just be like, oh, he looks cool. Maybe he, would
Right.
like to go.
Right.
Hmm
But let's say she starts asking about, like, aside from happy hour, and it's like
hmm
a Saturday, or she wants to do something or something. Like, there are certain signs that eventually, like, oh, okay, maybe she's interested in being more than just a friend or whatever,
Yeah.
right? You have to gauge it.
Right.
But let's just say you follow along, and then all of a sudden, so now you kind of almost, and I don't know if everybody kind of thinks of it in these terms, but do you think, okay, is this going to be a fling, or,
Mm.
because there has to be, whether you're the dude or the girl, you have to think it somewhat through, right? Like, okay, maybe we're just having fun or whatever,
Mm.
but it is going to have implications because I work with this person.
You think people think of that right away? Because I disagree.
You don't think they think about it? That's
Not
not something.
immediately. Maybe
Oh,
later, but
later,
immediately,
later,
yeah, later,
later,
later.
later, later.
But in the beginning, it's you're
Oh
just
my goodness.
attracted and you don't really see anything else.
Oh man. So they don't. So the way my mind works, right? I
Okay.
I go. I try to go down different avenues of what possibility, how this can end. It
uh-huh.
could either end in us being married and walking down the aisle, or it could end where I quit, because I
Yeah.
don't want because I don't want to see this person anymore, and I have to quit my job.
Mm.
But you're saying not everybody goes through that?
I don't think everybody initially thinks of that. Like if
Oh
I
man.
saw an attractive guy and I started flirting with him or whatever, I may not be thinking about the long term, like what's the effects if this doesn't? Because I will admit I have been in several work relationships. Like it happens. So for me
You a
personally,
workplace hoe.
I
I'm just kidding.
but I don't really think of that initially. If
Right,
I
right.
go out with them and it turns out I actually do really like them outside of work, then
Mm,
maybe I'll be like, okay, now I need to figure out what I need to do. But initially, like, hey man, like, what are you doing tonight? Nothing. Oh, come on, we're going out for happy hour. Like, come
mm.
on, like, you know what I mean?
Oof.
I don't.
Oof. I mean, so initially, right? But let me ask you this, or let me come at it from this angle. Do you take into consideration whether or not he's a peer, a subordinate, or somebody that you report to?
I probably wouldn't date someone who was my superior at this age.
Or direct report, or like even above that? Because there's different layers in the hierarchy, right?
Yeah, but I mean, if it's, let's say it's someone in a completely different department, we never cross paths, anything like that work
Yeah,
wise,
yeah,
maybe I would think that would be okay.
yeah.
But directly, no. I mean, when I was really young, like my
Mm,
very first job, I did date
hmm.
my boss.
Oh my goodness.
But I mean, as a mature person, no, I don't.
How did that work out? How did that? Well, yeah. How did that work out? Did he
Well,
ask you out? Did you ask him out, or
I
how did
think it
that
was, I don't
develop?
remember exactly, but I think it was just the same thing. What you're talking about is just kind of one day you just start flirting a little bit. I mean, he was really young to be a manager. So,
Mm,
like, he wasn't like that far off from my age.
mm,
So, let's say, I don't remember, but let's say I was 17 and he was 19 or something. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
whatever. He, and so, yeah, I mean, like, it was really weird because it's like, I don't know if anyone knew there, but it was like you go into work and then like I don't know, it's a weird feeling to be dating your
Yeah,
boss.
that's one of the statistics, or one of the other things that came out of that research, is that most people, when they're in office relationships, will keep it a secret.
Oh, for sure.
Don't understand that.
What do you mean?
Don't understand that. Why do you want to keep it a secret?
Because well, okay. I
Mm,
will speak for myself.
speak
So
for yourself.
one time
Don't speak for me, man. No, I'm just kidding.
one time
Yeah.
I did have a relationship with someone that I work with and we kept it a secret. Well, one, it was a really small office. And so I don't know, I just felt like maybe it would cause some weird things because it's so small. Like if you worked in a, building that had, 1,000 workers, yeah, maybe it won't be so much, but it was really small and we kept it a secret. We even had code names so that way I could talk about him to other people in the office like, "Oh yeah, me and whoever," but it
Mm,
wasn't really his name. But one funny thing with this person is that since nobody knew we were together, other men would talk to him about me and
mm,
he couldn't say anything.
right.
So he'd be
Because
like,
it's all secretive.
yeah, it's like you're talking about my girl, but like that to me was kind of funny because it's like,
That is, yeah, you know, and we've had this conversation about other things. I don't know what it is about a secret that makes a relationship hotter. I personally don't particularly care for it,
I
but
don't, well, I haven't kept it a secret because I thought it was taboo. It was just more of like a work thing of like, I don't want to get it complicated, messy for work. So it
right.
wasn't like,
But
ooh, it's our little secret.
there is a, because I've done that too,
Uh-huh.
and yeah, again, even I don't, and I did it right, but part of it was being a secret made it a little bit hotter.
I mean, I can see the appeal. Like, absolutely.
It's like nobody else knows. It's
Yeah.
just us, right? Now, again, if you're both not in committed relationships or
Yes.
married, it's fun. It's
Yeah.
super fun. To your point, like it's fun because the other person can hear what other
Yeah.
people think about you. But especially if you keep it hidden well enough, they
Well,
would
it's
never
like
know.
your little, it's like even a joke too. So, like for that person, if, the girl sitting next to me said, "Oh, what'd you do this weekend?" And I would say, like, "Oh, me and John went over here." And I would say, something about it, but he's in earshot, right? So it's
Right.
like you can hear it. And it's like a cute thing because it's like he knows I'm talking about him. You know
Mm,
what I mean?
right.
So you're right. If you're both, single and whatever, like it's really cute and fun. And I can see the appeal.
Did you guys ever tell anybody?
No.
You just kept it a secret
Yeah.
throughout the. So did it? I'm assuming that eventually ended.
Well, we both left the company at some point.
Oh,
So it was
well,
like,
that's what is that what ended the relationship, or was
oh
it?
no,
So were
no,
you
we
ended it
were,
while you were together, while you were still working?
no, we had already left the company. So we were dating. He got another job. We're still dating. I got another job. We're still dating. So like we
Oh, okay.
never had to reveal anything because we
And
were
then it
still
broke
dating
up
when
because
we.
all you had was your job. This ain't gonna work, girl. Turns out the only reason I liked you because it was because of work. No,
Mm,
no, I that's where I met my wife, right? We're
mm.
divorced now, but and I wanted to say my first wife, but that would imply I had a second and I don't. So, but
Maybe
no,
later.
yeah, later on, but right now she's the my ex-wife, let's just call her that.
Uh-huh.
But that's where I met her. I met her at work, and it wasn't like love at first sight or anything. I know I've talked about it before, and it just kind of developed as a friendship, and then
Yeah. So for
eventually into
you, when
something
you
else.
originally started this, you said being around that person, seeing them constantly. So that was what happened for you. You weren't initially, but being around her all that time, getting to know her and that kind of stuff.
Well, and I will no, it's slightly different. Weirdly enough, so in that case, we were around each other a lot at work, anyways. But we really didn't interact. I think she worked. She was a receptionist,
Mm,
very office like. But she was a receptionist, and I was in I think customer service, and I eventually moved into sales. But we didn't interact very much.
mm,
We became friends and started hanging out outside of work.
mm.
And it was only then that it developed. So it
Yeah.
didn't develop within work because we didn't spend enough time together
Yeah.
at
Not
work.
within those walls, but
Right.
you did something outside of
And
work and
initially,
then,
I'm sure she didn't find me attractive either, but I didn't find her particularly attractive at the time. I mean, I thought she was okay looking. I didn't think she was ugly or anything like that, but like there wasn't like, ooh, I want to get with her.
it wasn't like your heart kind of skips a beat when
Nope.
you see that
Nope.
person.
Nope. And that was the weird part because
Which isn't
that's,
that the best when there's like a
oh
new
my
person in the
God.
office and they're like, and you're
Oh
like,
my gosh.
oh, it's like a new
Yeah.
person in school.
Well,
You're like,
you
oh,
know,
he
it's
just transferred from another town.
I do like that. It's I don't get that very often anymore. And
Oh.
that's what I hate, but I love getting and I will say this, nowadays, um especially my age, usually those women already have somebody, because
Mm.
they're usually like super cute and this, that, and the other. So it's very rare that you find a single woman that has all those things and
So you
is
would just
also single.
assume that if there was a cute woman that started in at your job, you would just assume she's with someone.
Most of the time, yes, because I would say like 9 times out of 10 they
Do
are.
all guys think like that?
Oh, I don't know. But it's
Oh.
disappointing because let's say you don't know him, you see him and you're like, "Oh my goodness." And then like but even if you have a few interactions with them and then you really start liking them more because they have a really nice personality or
Mm.
you like the way they interact, have some of the same common interests. But then as you get to know them more and then she's let's say casually talking to you and she's like, "Yeah, my boyfriend and I went out on the weekend." And you're like,
Mm.
"Damn it."
Oh.
Yeah, cuz in your heart and you have to like keep smiling.
Yeah, you're like, oh, interesting. Tell me more.
No, please stop talking about
You're like, oh,
whatever
I
it is.
think my phone's ringing. I
Yeah,
gotta
like
go.
I gotta get back on my Zoom call or something. I don't know, but yeah, it breaks your heart right then and there, and it
Mm,
shatters because you have to. And then usually at that point, it's different because you try not to talk to them anymore because it's like they already have somebody. So
mm.
the best you can hope for at that point is
They'll
that,
break up.
yeah, yeah. But you can't, and I would say this much, and this is just me. This is only me. Whenever I dig somebody, I will let them know as soon as I start having those feelings. I usually let them
Mm.
know I'm digging them. And then if they're not receptive and they're like, hey, I don't see you that way, I will bounce. I'm out of there. I'm not in no way.
You won't even
I'm
pursue a friendship at that point.
nope. Nope. I will not torture myself. I've done that way too many times and I don't do that anymore.
You finally learned.
I did learn no, because they lose respect for you anyways. Because in most cases, not all of them, mind you, the woman knows that she's got you. She knows. So that means like it's different.
Yeah.
And you almost become somewhat of a puppy dog. You follow around everywhere she goes, this, that, and the. I don't want that relationship. I don't like that.
Yeah.
Now, that's why I say for me, I like I have female friends, but I would just want to be friends with them. And that's why it's easier to do that because there's nothing as far as that goes. But yeah, no, no. If I say I like you and she says no, I'm out.
Is it awkward for you to see them in the office after you've asked them out and been shot down?
No, not at all. No, I'm good. I'm good. Because now at that point, we are strictly coworkers
I
at
know,
that
but
point.
you've made yourself very vulnerable to that person.
Yeah.
And then now you have to see them. I could see why some people, if I had asked a guy out at my job and he said, "No, I'm sorry, I don't see you in that way," I'd be a little embarrassed to see him afterwards.
Oh no, no, I don't feel embarrassed at all.
Oh,
Mm-mm, I
good
don't.
for you.
Yeah, yeah. And I know we've talked about this, right? So I tend to sometimes I have confidence. I have confidence, quite a bit of confidence, right? But my confidence comes from anger. So it's not that I'm full of myself and think, oh, I'm the best thing that ever lived.
Mm.
That's not where my confidence comes from. I just get angry when people either underestimate me or tell me I can't do something. So that's when I
So if
get
a girl
upset.
says, "I'm sorry, I just don't see you in that way," that would make you angry?
Hmm. And
But
I would do my best to, and this is weird, to better myself in any which way, form, or manner to show her what she missed out on. I wouldn't directly tell her that, and I wouldn't go directly and be like, "Oh, you missed out on that." I wouldn't do that. What I would do is from there on in, it would probably drive me to want to lose weight, to
but
dress
it's not
better,
a
to
her underestimating you. Some people you just are not attracted
no,
to.
no, I get that.
Why would
I
you
get
look at
that.
it
But
as
that's
such an insult?
it. But it's that's how you, because everybody, and to that point, you would be embarrassed. But why would you be embarrassed?
Because I made myself vulnerable, but I wouldn't be like, "I'm gonna show
Yeah, but
you."
that's not
I
an.
wouldn't.
But it's different. So you handle it different, where you
Oh,
might be embarrassed. I don't get embarrassed. I get angry and be like, okay, I'm going to show you what you missed out on,
but
because if I know it's weird.
okay.
Everybody handles rejection differently, and that's why I'm saying I don't get embarrassed. If anything, I'm gonna like, okay, I'm going to show you just how great a guy I am. Like again, I'm not gonna like go put it in your face,
Mm.
but what I have found, and this is interesting, is that when you're with, well, let's say you make yourself vulnerable to a woman, you're like, "Hey, I like you," and she's like, "No, I don't see you that way." Cool. Then I usually tell them, "Well, I can't. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to be your friend. So, like, we're still cool and everything, but like, I can't do that." What's interesting is then as soon as other women start seeing you in that light, they tend to get jealous. They tend to get a lot of jealous.
That's crazy.
I mean, that's the way it is.
Why would they feel like they have ownership over you for any reason?
I couldn't tell you. I
Mm.
couldn't tell you why they cared one way or the other. But it just so happens that that's what I'm saying. For me, it's like, well, wait a minute. You're right. You didn't want me. So why do you care who I'm hanging out with? Hey, I don't think you should be hanging out with her because she's this. And I was like, why do you care?
Maybe it's like a selfish thing of they want you to be infatuated with them only and because it makes them feel good and maybe they don't like I
You
don't
had your chance,
I
girl. You know what I'm saying?
don't know.
I don't know what to tell you either. But that's the interesting phenomenon. It's almost like I don't know. And again, I can't explain it. I can only give you a hypothesis of what I think it is, right?
Mm,
So the best I can attain is that when sometimes you're vulnerable, they feel like, oh, I got you. And
mm.
once they feel that they got you, so to speak, then at that point, they almost kind of lose respect for you. Don't really want to, like, whatever, because it's like, oh, yeah, I got you. I'm not worried about, like, I'm on to the next conquest. The moment that you say, okay, great, I'm going to move on from you,
Mm.
all of a sudden they're like, I did kind of like him. I mean, he was kind of cute, or maybe I do this, that, and the other. And it's like, well, why? You had your chance. That's why
Yeah.
it's weird sometimes when you, but me personally, I don't have game. I don't have time for games. So if I like you, I'm going to tell you. And if
Yeah.
you don't like me, then I got to move on, right? Because, and again, if we're friends, then we're friends. We'll just leave it at that. But I will not, and I repeat, I will not torture myself by liking somebody that does not like me. That is one of the worst pains that you can inflict on yourself.
Would you ask out your subordinate if you were attracted to her? Or
No.
is that okay? So that's off limits for you.
Yes. Yeah. Because that's just now.
Now she's writing your reviews at the end of the year.
Now, if she asked me out, I guess I would have to. I don't know. I would think about it, but in general, it's probably not a good idea. In general,
I would feel like if my male boss asked me out, I would look at him like, how inappropriate are you that you would do that? Like, you know what I'm saying?
but is it? That's what I'm saying. That's the
That's
line
super
right there. That's
inappropriate.
the line right there. I think so. When you have subordinates, you have to be very careful because you have subordinates, right?
Mm,
Now, that said, you're both adults, but I think no matter which way it goes, the optics of it, of a direct trying to ask a subordinate out, the
yeah.
optics of it look horrible, even
Yeah.
if they both really dig each other. It's just not. It's just a
Yeah.
bad look all
That's
the way
really bad.
around. All the way around. But obviously, the old cliche of the executive and the secretary.
Yeah.
Like that happens a lot, right?
Yeah.
And
Because
I
they get to pick who they hire. So back in the day, what you're referring
well,
to is back in the day, they would hire beautiful women only to do those kinds of jobs.
maybe, but I would say, and again, I've never had a an assistant or anything like that, but I would imagine it's also I don't know if they're being taken care of. I know it's their job.
Uh-huh.
I know it's their job, but I can also understand how, as a human, it still feels good,
Yeah.
job or otherwise, right? Especially if they go above and beyond and do things outside of what the normal
Mm-hmm.
tasks are, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then it's kind of like, oh, that's kind of sweet, and then like you like that. Like, how are you not? And this extends out because there's a lot more female executives now too.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a thing too. So if you're a female executive and you ask one of your male support now, it's not as it doesn't seem to be that big of a taboo right now. But
But I also don't think it's that common.
mm, I don't know.
In
I,
my
I couldn't tell you.
experience, I see more of executive whatever, it's the male and dating a female subordinate than the other way around. I'm not saying it doesn't happen,
Right, right.
but it's not as likely.
Yeah, maybe.
I feel like women, like to my point, what I just said, how it's really inappropriate. I feel
Yeah,
like most women are probably more like, okay, I can't do this because we're not acting so much on a sexual urge,
yeah,
like a man would.
yeah.
So they're only looking at that.
Well, and let me ask you this, because and I've said this in previous conversations that we've had. In general,
Mm,
women tend to date either the equals or above,
yeah,
and I wonder if that also has something to do with it.
maybe so.
Eesh, that's harsh. That's harsh. That's harsh. I mean, but and the reason why I say like, if that's human nature, that's human nature.
Yeah, I think the majority of women, we do want at least our equal. Men, I don't think care as much about that.
No, men could
But
care
it's,
less.
I don't want to say it's, I don't know. I just think that women probably would want more of an equal.
I think so too. But
Yeah.
so maybe that's one of the
I
reasons
mean,
maybe that
probably.
happens, right? But yeah.
Write in and let us know if you are a female executive. How do you feel about it? Here's the thing 214 at gmail.com.
Right. But I would say that and that's with subordinates and directs and all that good stuff. But I think peers, that happens a lot.
Mm,
Because let's just say going back to that, let's say it turns into a fling. So you and this person, you guys go out, you do your thing, go back to work, but there's nothing there like the pillow talk, let's call it,
uh huh.
right, which is everything after that
Yeah.
or even before, just isn't there. They're
Mm-hmm.
not very interesting. You're not, but you're physically attracted to them. So like, okay, here you go, right? And
Mm-hmm.
let's say I'm physically attracted to her, but there's no real emotional connection that you're having. So then it could be that that's the relationship that you have for a while,
Mm,
but let's just say that that thing plays itself out and you stop calling each other less and less, stop going over each other's desk.
uh huh.
Now it just is a fling, but it
Yeah.
happened.
Yeah.
So you still have to navigate your way through that.
Yeah.
And that's the hard part because, seeing that other person naked.
Yeah.
And so you have to, it's weird, right? So, in that sense, I can see why it would be beneficial to keep things secret
Mm.
because it's just a fling. And if it ends, everybody's
No
going to
one's the
know.
wiser. It's fine.
Right, exactly. If nobody
Yeah.
knows, nobody knows.
Mm.
But if everybody knows, everybody's going to know.
Yeah. I was thinking about that too. Like, even let's say that you do have a relationship and you have, okay, so my scenario earlier, if I had told everybody in the office,
Tell everybody.
yeah, him and this, we're together, right? And let's say we did break up in the office,
Mhm.
everyone's going to know. And then you have that thing where they're going to be coming at you like, oh, well, he doesn't come over here anymore. Did something happen? Like, it's
Mm,
just, I try to avoid all of that. So,
mm,
like, I just don't want to get messy in that. So, in that scenario, let's say if it was a fling, but everybody knew,
right.
and then all of a sudden you don't see them talking anymore, and then you're like,
Mm.
oh, what happened with you and so and so? Then you know what I mean?
You
Like,
got to tell them.
yeah.
Well, let me ask you this, but back to the original where let's say you're dating somebody and you haven't determined whether it's a fling or not. It's
Uh
it's
huh.
at work. You kept it secret, but you've also, being a girl or being a woman, you notice that other women are throwing themselves at him. You
Okay.
can't um, visibly be jealous. You can't.
Right.
You can be jealous, but if you go up there like, "Hey, what are you doing? You've been up here for 10 minutes, and I don't know what y'all talking about, but you need to get back to your desk, young lady. I don't need you
Yeah.
talking to my
That would
man."
be hard, like, for me to have to see that and not it can't feel any type of way out
You
like,
can,
out
but
loud.
you just
Yeah.
can't show it.
Yeah.
You would have to like control yourself and control
Yeah.
your emotion. Now you can let them have it afterwards,
Or even, like, let's say that you like someone, but you guys aren't dating. You can still be jealous
right?
if you see that, but you can't be mad at that person because 'cause you're not in a relationship. So it's just like but it
Well,
still makes you
yeah,
mad if you like this guy and there's a bunch of women flocking around him all the
yeah.
time, like
Well, let's just say that you are just dating, right? You haven't had that conversation about exclusivity,
uh-huh.
right? Technically, he can date other women in there too. Or let's make things even worse. Let's say you're talking to one of your female coworkers and she's like, "Oh yeah, me and so hooked up," and you'd be like,
Wow.
"Yeah," and it's the same guy, and then you're like, "Uh oh, uh
Mm. I know I would
oh."
not be able to hide my face at that point because I know me.
You're starting to get red now. Look
I would immediately go red. I'm like,
right? But
yeah.
you really can't feel as, and that's another reason why office relationships aren't good. Because I know sometimes a guy can do that, right?
Yeah.
He probably would date two or three different women within the
Yeah.
office.
Yeah, if you did have a relationship and let's say that you broke up, and let's say it was even a really bad breakup, and
Mhm.
then now they start dating someone else in there, and you have to see that. Oh,
And
that's
hear about
horrible.
it too.
Oh, that's horrible.
Hmm.
And then people, that want to stir the pot would even go up to you and be like, "Oh, did you see?" Even though they know that
Hmm.
it's like you're just being messy at that
Oh yeah.
point.
Oh yeah.
Like, oh, well, he's I mean, but yeah, that's got to be really hard.
It's got to be tough. Well, what are you gonna do?
I don't think I've been in that scenario before, but that would make me want to quit.
And well, for sure, because I think, and I don't know what it's like now. Again, it's but sometimes it's a double standard,
Mm,
right? A guy that does that in the office, you'll be looked at a certain kind of way by both men and women.
mhm.
And for whatever reason, he comes off as more studly,
Yeah,
perhaps.
he's getting a lot of high fives all of a
Yeah,
sudden.
yeah. And even I would say, and maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think even women somehow are like, well, there's this weird thing with and I don't know if, I'm trying to think if there's an equivalent for men. And there is, but there's this weird thing with women sometimes where if one woman is dating the guy, all of a sudden it makes him more valuable than a single guy. I don't know why that is. I don't know if it's because, well, they think, well, if she's dating him, he must be good. You know what I mean?
There's
Like,
something about that guy.
yeah, he becomes more attractive when he is with somebody versus when he is single. I don't, and not
Mhm.
in all cases,
Yeah.
but I think in some cases, especially like let's say there's one guy and he's dated two women in the office,
Mhm.
and you've heard about it. I don't know if that just makes it more appealing because they're like, okay, what does he have that? Because obviously these two fell for him, and like there's something, I don't know if his value goes up or what, but
For me, I think the value would go down because once you go past dating one person in the office, then you feel like it's going to be a trend kind of thing. You know what I
it could
mean?
be, but
So, like,
that's
if
not
I
gonna.
if I saw someone that was attractive, and I found out that he had dated three other women in the same department or whatever, I think that would deter me
But
personally.
if he's good looking, you make that assumption anyways, right? Because if you're out in a club or wherever you meet people, I don't know, grocery store, library, I don't know, wherever people hang out. Did anybody go to the library anymore? Because you can Google everything,
I
but
don't know. I think they demolished our library over here.
no, they still have it. Franklin said we have to have libraries forever. It's one of those socialist programs, but 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 if you're gonna date a good looking guy, wouldn't it go to reason that everybody thinks he's good looking? So he probably is gonna have
Yeah,
quite a few.
but I'm just saying he's just going through all of his options at the office. He's just boom, boom, boom. Here's the next one. Like it would deter me. It just feels like it's just a pattern. It's like, well, here's your hunting ground. Here's all these women to choose from, and you're just going through them all.
But wouldn't it be just more intriguing?
Not for me.
Okay.
I get I get why people would say what you're feeling,
Yeah.
but like for me, no.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think that I would now date someone that I knew dated someone else in my job. Like I wouldn't, even if it was just one other person. I don't want to be messy. I don't want any
It's not about being messy, but I would imagine because of the statistics,
I
50% of them are
oh
already,
no, I know.
chances are, if somebody's, I mean, it's hard, right? Obviously, if they're good looking people, you can't stop thinking they're good looking when they go into the office. They're good looking as they're good looking.
Yeah.
That's, you know what I mean? Or if you're attracted, let's put it that way, not good looking because that's subjective. But if you find somebody attractive, you find them attractive, regardless of whether or not. Now,
I
though,
know, but I can still find them attractive and not date them or not pursue them.
you can, but you know,
I'm only speaking for me. I
yeah,
know I get it, but
yeah.
it just feels messy already on top of trying to date someone at work. It's already messy and now you're going to complicate it even more by we all sit in the same area and you
Mm,
dated her and I don't know what happened, but now I just this too
the
much.
potlucks would be a little bit different
Yeah. It's like
because
I put
I'd
a
be,
laxative in this potluck and you all
yeah,
going to eat
I'd
it
be
cuz
eating her deviled eggs and her cookies over there.
yeah, I don't know. But yeah, I get why someone would be like, "Oh, well," but no, I don't that would
Yeah.
deter me.
So the next thing I kind of wanted to dive into is along the same lines. Only there's statistics out there, and there's a high number of in this day and age. Unfortunately, it's inevitable, but I think it's happened throughout years. But
Mm,
affairs happen quite a bit in the workplace,
yeah.
right? Married people, you know, messing around. Now, for all the same reasons that we talked about earlier, why people have these, right? So they're attracted because they work together. Maybe at home, they're having problems at home. They go to work, they work together, they're kind to one another. You almost have to be nice to one another at work, right? It helps
Yeah.
than trying to be crappy to one another. So then the affair starts up. I think those when those come to light, those can be super messy. Now that is what I would call messy. Dating
Mm.
around, I mean, yeah, it's frowned upon. But if you're both single,
Yeah.
again, it's frowned upon because you're at the end of the day, you're adults.
Yeah.
You're both adults. You're not committed to
I
anybody.
just more like I don't want to bring drama to my workplace. That's more of what I mean.
Yeah, yeah. But and again, I don't know where people meet each other in the libraries
Yeah.
or grocery stores, but it's hard to meet people.
No.
And it's even harder for, because guys get rejected quite a bit. That sometimes takes a toll on
Yeah,
you.
it's no
Everybody's
different than
susceptible to
school.
it.
You're going to be dating your school people you go to school with because that's who you see every day and that's like what you're around. So work is no different. It's
No,
just
I
a
date a
grown up.
girl from another school. You haven't met her.
Yeah.
Deborah Glass.
Yeah.
She's super cute. She used to be a
Yeah.
supermodel and stuff,
Be like,
but
here's a picture. Be like, why does it look like one of those pictures that comes with the frame? Oh, well, she was at a photo shoot.
yeah, it's all right.
But
That's
yeah,
part of her
it's
work.
no different. It's just a grown up school. So
Yeah.
like, yeah, I mean, it happens.
Now I remember being because sometimes I was at work and there was a guy and there was another lady. It was actually a couple of times, but this one in particular, we worked in the office and he was a good looking guy. He worked out, he had muscles. He was like engaged or married, and his wife was blonde,
Mm.
just beautiful, all that good stuff. And one day, and I don't know why, me and him just started chatting up. And he just started telling me, I don't know what about my face makes people tell me stuff, but he just started telling me stuff. He goes on to tell me that he's having an affair with another a supervisor there at work.
Uh-huh.
And that woman was supposed to be like hardcore Christian and
Mm.
conservative and like she didn't really play around, she didn't flirt, but for
Mhm.
whatever reason, she was giving it up to this guy and he
Mm.
was just like, "Yeah, we stay late and we schedule ourselves late in the late shift together." And he was just going into just all kinds of detail.
Mm.
And I couldn't look at it the same way after that. But partly I felt like I don't know. And even though it wasn't, I had nothing to do with, like, I didn't like her. I was married at the time, so I could care less, right? But I do remember thinking to myself, she's been lying all this time.
Yeah.
Like, I felt not betrayed, but I felt like I can't trust her anymore
Right.
because I thought she was too goody two shoes and she acted like that. But now all of a sudden I know that that's not the case.
Yeah, because you're going to
She's
judge her character now. It's like, well, if you're lying about this or you're fake about this, then everything
you're
is fake.
dirty.
It's
You're
yeah,
dirty all the way around. And this is my only thing. I know we're not talking about affairs and whatnot, but I've never understood that about affairs. If you do not like the person that you're with, leave. But then we get into that whole thing of, well, it's just a physical thing. I love my spouse, but
yeah,
I just and
yeah. We'll
we
have an affairs episode at some
we
point.
have to because that whole
Yeah.
thing it just drives me nuts and doesn't make any sense to me. I'm old school. You make a commitment, you you stick it through, or you break it off and
Yeah.
then you move on, and that's the best way to do it. Why you would want to do something, but again, and I will say this: what I have learned about affairs was it has to do with the whole secrecy thing.
Mm,
That plays a big part.
yeah.
And I would imagine with her, because whatever persona she wanted everybody to think or
Yeah.
that she was portraying was not her. Or maybe it was, but there's also that evil dark side to her.
Yeah.
That's why for me, it was like, huh,
Yeah.
okay. Like I thought this person, I thought very highly of him. And it's hard because I don't know. I get it, right? She's human just like everybody else. Again, he was an attractive dude, but he was married too. He didn't care. Obviously, he's
Yeah.
probably been doing this forever. But it just, I don't know. There was so many thoughts, and obviously, I never asked her.
Mm,
But I started thinking to myself too, like, I wonder if she's like really unhappy in her marriage. Because I
yeah.
met her husband, and I had like he seemed like a pretty nice guy, and they seemed genuinely in love with one another.
Yeah.
But all this time, she's been doing all this dirty stuff with this other guy. And I'm just like, and don't get me wrong, I'm not, I'm trying not to, I know that could be devastating, especially for the guy, but I don't know. I just don't get it. Why don't they just break up and they'll get divorced and then she can do whatever she wants to?
I don't know. You know, what made me think about too when you were talking about like you looked at her differently. Have you ever been in a situation where, let's say that no one's married, they're just fooling around, right?
Mhm.
And a guy comes to you and tells you very intimate details about someone that you see in the office,
Mm,
and you look at them differently because it's like, I know you maybe like this thing, you know what I
right.
mean? Like things that you wouldn't normally
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
That's
There
always kind
is,
of funny.
as an adult, yes. But I remember, and this had nothing to do with workplace. This was in high school. I remember there was this one girl and I had a crush on her. And I don't know why, but in the class, the way it was set up, the seats were facing one another. So it was like three rows on each side of the class,
Mhm.
and the chairs were facing each other. So the teacher would walk in between. So
Yeah.
when he would lecture, but we're still stuck with looking at each other.
Right.
But this particular, and she wasn't directly in front of me, so she was like catty corner or
Uh-huh.
whatever. And I saw her, and I just thought she was the most beautiful looking thing. Like she was
Uh-huh.
so cute. She was super cute. She was wonderful. She had, anyways, and I admired her from afar. I was, very quiet or whatever. But I remember there was this other guy, and he was loud. He was just loud. Like everywhere he went, you knew he was in the room because he was gonna talk, and he was just one of those guys,
Yeah.
borderline annoying.
Yeah.
But I guess if you were at a party, it would have been fun. But
Yeah.
like, I'm not here for that, right? So, anyways, he was loud. And again, I don't know what face I have, but he one time we were in shop and he started talking to me. So I'm there trying to put together my project, whatever it is. He starts yapping on and he starts going on. And then eventually he starts talking about that girl.
Uh-huh.
So I'm just listening. It turns out him and that girl were doing all kinds of nasty stuff together. Now it's just like, man, what is going on? That was my first introduction of like, sometimes things aren't always what you
Did you
think.
like her more or less after you
I
knew?
stopped liking her at that point.
Oh,
I couldn't see her the same anymore.
yeah.
Having him describe the certain things that were going
Yeah.
on in high school is horrible
But
when
it
I was
taught you a
growing up.
lesson not to judge the book by its
It's not so
cover.
much. It's that I've learned that lesson over and over and over. But I'm a big person. I'm a big. How can I explain it? What you see, for the most part, for me, is what you get.
Mm.
I do have my secrets, just like everybody else. I don't know how dark they would be.
But you're pretty open.
For the
I
most
mean,
part, what you see is what you get. And if
yeah.
I do something stupid or whatever, I'll usually let you know early on. I mean, if I'm in a relationship with somebody.
Mm.
But like I was, and we we had talked about this before. I do better when I'm in a relationship. I can control myself a lot better
Mm,
because there's something about when I make a commitment, like I'm in that committed relationship. Even if
mhm.
I'm not 100% happy in it, it doesn't matter. I'm in a relationship.
Yeah.
So the only way that I'm going to do anything foolish is, well, not even foolish, but the only way that I would pursue anybody else at that point is if I break up with you first.
Mhm,
Until
mhm.
then, I'm just here and loyal and trying to make it work, even though I might not be happy.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so I mean, for the most part, you see, and I usually treat people the same way. So
Mhm.
if you say you're conservative and you know that you do a bunch of good stuff and this, that, and the other, I take it at face value.
Yeah.
If that's what you say you are, because I have nothing that tells me otherwise. So because I live my life pretty open,
You assume everybody?
I assume everybody does it, right? But
Yeah.
it turns out it's not. And I've
Mhm.
learned that throughout the years that not everybody are what they seem
Yeah.
or or what they portray themselves
Yeah.
as, right? And sometimes you can be misunderstood too.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like for me, um, I get told I'm a nice guy. I'm really not that nice. I'm really not that nice. I mean, I consider myself a decent person, but nice, I don't. I've never considered myself nice, not even a little bit.
Well, what if when people say it, they mean decent, but they just choose that word?
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. I think um, that's the downside of that, right? Because I don't go around telling people I'm nice. If anything, I'm trying to make a point to not have people think, because there's a certain perception that happens when people call you nice. They look at you at a different way
Mhm.
and they underestimate you. They don't see you as, I don't know, and maybe I'm not correctly articulating this, but it's almost like when they see you as a nice guy, they don't see you as a threat. And even though I'm not threatening anybody, you can't discard me like that. Because if you discard me like that, you're going to get yourself in
But what
trouble.
about that woman that you were talking about that was really harsh at work and things like that? When you were saying she was having an affair, right? What if her putting on this really hard persona is what you just said?
What do you mean? That,
Like her trying to be like buckled down, the lady that you were talking about that was having an affair with the other guy.
yeah,
You didn't see her in that way, you didn't know whatever.
right. Because
But
she came off as
but she's trying
very,
to be very in charge or whatever for the thing that you just
no, she
said.
was being very goody two shoes. Like she was like, hey,
But what
uh,
if she feels like she would be judged if she was trying to be who she really was?
no, I get that. I get
Yeah.
why people will not. People fear. This is what I've learned too, right? And this is why I say why that what you see is what you get. Most of my friends, most of my good friends, they know how I am.
Mhm.
They've accepted me with my flaws and all. So I'm okay expressing that because eventually not everybody's going to like me.
Mhm.
So the people that do like me and are attracted are only going to like me because of what I can't put up this act forever. So
Mhm.
if I was pretending, it's going to get old really, really fast. Eventually it's going to start to seep out like, oh no,
Mhm.
and I've seen people like that where they're really nice, but then they do something, all of a sudden you're like, whoa, this guy's really a jerk.
Yeah.
Like I've never seen that part of them before. And it's like, yeah, because they're tired of putting on that act.
Mhm.
And so to me, it's just easier to just, for the, as much as you can be yourself. Obviously
Mhm.
you can't give off all your opinions or every little thought that comes into your head.
Yeah.
But I've never referred to myself as nice.
Mhm.
I've never said I'm a nice guy, but I've heard people say that about me, and sometimes it's a little, I don't know. I know women sometimes like a little danger and they like a little excitement and this, that, and the other. And when you say nice, it's gotta be just that wouldn't do it for any woman. I've never, I've never heard a woman be like, "Ooh, he's so nice. I can't wait to be with him because he's just so nice." No, I've never heard anybody say that. They usually he's hot, he's excited, he's got tattoos, whatever, whatever. But
I like
never.
a nice guy.
No, I'm not saying that they don't, but I'm not. But there is a certain danger element,
Mhm.
and I'm not saying it has to be like completely. You're not, dating like a mafia boss or anything like that. But there's a certain danger element that I think women naturally gravitate towards. I don't
Mhm.
know why, but in my experience. And when somebody calls you nice, it's like, that's a killer, man.
Mm,
That's a killer. And it just drives me crazy because they look at you different and they underestimate you and they almost feel like you're, I don't know. You know what I mean? I don't know
yeah.
how to explain it.
So in the workplace, would you try to still come off as a nice guy, or do you even want the workplace to think you have this danger? And when we're talking about
No,
work
right,
relationships,
right,
I'm just
right.
saying, like, how do you want to portray
Well,
that?
that's the other part that I don't like is
Mm,
that, let's say, when they do think of you as nice in general, they tend to step on you and they're gonna push your boundaries.
mm,
So even at work, if somebody thinks that I'm nice,
mm,
they're gonna think that they can get away with a lot more with me than they could with another person. But therein lies the problem because you're not.
mm,
You're gonna find out really fast, especially if you push the boundaries too much. I am not as nice as you think I am, right? Which is almost the implication of you're gullible,
mm.
and I'm not. So so I don't like to be referred to as nice in any way. I'm like I said, I'm a decent guy. I'm not a jerk, and I don't talk down to anybody. I like to raise people up. I like to put out positive energy. Just not nice. To me,
Mm.
that's a bad word. It's a four-letter bad word. I've said it a lot, so I'm gonna have to beep these out. So when you hear beep, that's me
Uh-huh.
saying nice. Like I wonder what he's saying because it
Yeah.
starts with an N.
Well, now you
It's
have to
nice.
put one in there just because.
But no, so yeah, so back to office relationships and affairs, they usually keep it secret.
Yeah.
That was one of the other statistics that I found in there. Now, and we've talked about flings, which implies it multiple times. But what about one-time hookups?
Is it worse, you mean?
No, it's
Like,
like, how do you? And I don't know if you known anybody or experienced or anything like that where something happened between you and somebody else, and it doesn't necessarily even have to be like a hookup, right?
mm,
Um, let's say you guys made out or
mm,
something like that, but then nothing else ever happened after that,
uh-huh.
right? Like, how do you navigate through
I don't know, but that's the kind of stuff you hear after that company party the next day. That's,
that?
but I don't know. I mean, like for me, if I had kind of that scenario with someone one time, I don't think I would think much of it. I don't think it would be weird at work to see that. Like, I don't think I would think anything of it,
What if it
honestly.
was just a one time?
Yeah, it was just like I made out with some guy after the Christmas party and then nothing more. I don't think that it would be weird to see them or there's any reason for it to be weird.
Because you guys made out.
I don't know. I mean, well, I don't know. But yeah, I mean that's a really juicy that's some juicy gossip, right? Like
Well, and it's interesting because I think a lot of that time too, just going back to the office party, I think that's where again you're working with these people, so
mm,
there's a certain familiarity that you have.
yeah. And then
Add
you're adding
alcohol.
yeah, that liquid courage. Yeah. Like, some things will come out for sure.
But so I was reading a statistic here, and so they were saying that it says almost 3 in 4, so 72%, would participate in an office romance again if given the chance. So after all those scenarios, let's say you made some
Mm,
mistakes, maybe all of those things happen, 3 out of 4 people would say they would still do it again.
yeah. Yeah, I could see that because I told you I've been in a lot of those, and even though I say like right now it's like no, I don't want to ever again. I probably would. I mean, like,
Well, and okay, so and I've brought up this scenario before with you and I can't remember if we did it on a previous episode or not, but I'll bring it up again. But let's just say, because I did have a friend of mine, and the person that they were dating had previously had a relationship at work. I think it was with either a colleague or a direct.
mm,
And now that person is dating my friend. And then my friend goes to an office function. So now he's there
yeah,
and he knows that she's been with this guy,
mm,
but they're colleagues. So
mm-hmm,
they're going to work together.
yeah,
And she's obviously has to keep on going to work. That would be kind of awkward
yeah,
because it all happened before they got together.
yeah.
So this happened before that relationship. But still, how would you feel if that was the situation? If you were dating a guy and the guy was like, you went to a company function and he's like, hey, just FYI, me and Karen over here,
Uh-huh.
we used to date for 6 months or whatever, or even if he was just a fling, I don't know
Yeah.
what would be worse, whether it was just a fling, like we had a fling for a while, and but we still work together.
Probably be the same for me. Like, how would I feel going to that function knowing
Yeah, would
that?
that be uncomfortable for you?
Maybe a little bit, but I don't think I would think too much of it because everybody's gonna have their like, you know what I mean? There's nothing you can do
Yeah,
about
but
it.
you got to see them. That's the whole
Yeah, but
point.
I
You got to
can't be
see
that
them.
judgmental because I've dated people from work, so that could have happened to me very easily.
Mm.
So like, I don't think that but yeah, it's not like I would love it. Like, yay, he's dated 4 women here, but like, we're all adults. It happens.
Are we? Because I feel like a child sometimes. So I got some interesting statistics based on this stuff that I found on the internet or whatever. But essentially, it says, have you ever felt attracted to a coworker? So out of the people that they surveyed, 89% said yes. That's a lot.
Yeah.
That's 9 out of 10 people say, yes, I've been attracted to a
Does it say
coworker.
like how many people you work with? Like, what if it's like a place where there's only 3 people working there? Then it would
Well,
be,
yeah, and so that's an interesting thing. So apparently, office relationships happen more when it's less people. So 11 to 50 employees
mm,
has a higher rate at 63% rate of office
yeah,
relationships.
because you're probably interacting with the small amount of people
Hmm.
more.
But it's only slightly less, right?
Mm,
So for with companies with 1,000 or more employees, it's 50%. I would imagine that that would have been the other way around,
hmm,
but maybe it's because they have so many people that there's like turnover and stuff. Maybe
yeah,
that's
a bunch of new people to look at.
well, then the other statistics is have you ever dated a coworker? And 58% of people that they interviewed said yes.
Yeah.
Again, that's quite a lot of people.
Yeah.
And you got to wonder about the other 42%.
Uh-huh. What are they doing?
Yeah, what's going on there? Like, why are they getting no play? Like,
Or maybe they don't want to. Maybe they're like, no, this is even though they haven't done it before, they probably know it's a bad idea.
right. So then they have another thing where they were talking about office romances and making it official or not. 75% of the respondents try to keep their relationship a secret from other
Mm,
coworkers.
yeah.
So I think that's regardless of whether or not it's working or not. Like, you know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like they just want to keep it a secret, which seems so odd to
What if
me.
you try to keep it a secret, but then eventually you guys get married? Like at that point, do you be like,
The
hey,
cat's out of the bag.
everybody,
Yeah.
we've been dating for 5 years and now we're getting married. So we both need to take off for this week? Like that would be
Yeah.
funny.
And by the way, she's got a bun in the oven. So that's also mine. No, it's interesting. But you know what? Here's another interesting fact about that. It says 82% of the time, others eventually find out.
Yeah.
Because you just need to tell one person, or one person needs to see you. So I'll give you another instance where that happened. So in another, when I was younger, than I was like 17 or 18, and I worked in an auto parts store.
Mhm.
So uh, and I remember because you have different schedules in the morning and in the
Mhm.
nighttime or whatever. And I had two bosses. I had a manager and the assistant manager. The manager was a guy and the assistant manager was a female, or whatever. And she was really smart. Like she was really good. Like she knew all her auto parts. Like she could go out there and like fix things and like
Mhm.
better than me. I couldn't do any of that stuff. But I remember there was one time they scheduled, and they would always schedule themselves in the morning, which is odd. Because you only need one manager to open
Right.
up and then you need another one to close.
Right.
And I always thought that was weird because sometimes they would ask me to close. And I'm like, why are you asking me to close? Like, don't you have
Yeah.
an assistant manager for this? You know what I mean? Like, shouldn't be somebody of authority because I'm just a cashier. But
Yeah.
okay, sure. But I do remember one time they scheduled me early in the morning. I got there. They were in the back as always, and I was in the front getting all my stuff ready, blah, 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 blah. It was the one and only time I ever ran a cash register, by the way. But I remember I walked back there and I saw them like kissing, and they saw me and they like got away from one
Oh
another
my
really fast.
gosh.
Yeah. And that's how I knew. Now, the thing about that one was I met his wife, and his wife was she was something else.
In
I
a
don't know
good
what
way or bad way?
I don't know what her real name was, but she went by Boo. And
Okay.
Boo was not having it. She I think she suspected at some point because she would stop by unexpectedly
Mm.
just out of the blue and say, "Where's he at?" And I'm like, "I don't know." And she's like, "He's
Oh.
supposed to be here." And I'm like, "Oh, I don't know what to tell you. He's not here." So I it sounds like you need to have a conversation with your whatever. And so yeah. And again, I would have never suspected it from her because she was very straight laced. She had kids. She was married, and he
Mm.
was married, and there was nothing to um there was nothing that you could see that anything was going on.
Yeah.
Like they were pretty good about it. Almost now that I think about it, it were almost they made it a point not to interact very much,
Mhm.
and that also kind of gave it away.
Yeah. I think that it's really hard to hide that. I think most people would know. And I mean, I would love for my scenario, I would love to go back and ask those people if they knew that I
Right.
had a relationship. Because I mean, in my eyes, it's like we did good, we kept it a secret. But yeah, if I talk to them again, I wonder if they were like, oh, yeah, we knew. Like, you know what I mean?
It's like,
Like,
oh
duh,
yeah,
you were
yeah.
talking about this fake person's name. Like, we knew.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I
Yeah.
think, I don't know. I don't know. Offices they always make up stuff and they have rumors or whatever.
Mm.
So a couple other just quick statistics. And they started asking people, surveying people, and they said, "What was the nature of your romantic relationship?" 33% said they formed a regular relationship, which means went somewhere outside of it. It wasn't
Uh-huh.
just a fling. 31% they dated for a while.
Mhm.
I don't know what a while means, but a while. 21% said it was just a few hookups.
Mhm.
Good for them. And then 14% said they slept together once and that was it. And so,
Yeah.
and then there's another one on here that says women are more likely than men to get as serious about office romances. So 72% of women said they dated office crush long term.
Mhm.
59% of men said they did the same thing. That's weird. That's interesting. So, yeah, okay, and I'll give you this last one. So they were doing it by generation. So they had baby boomers, Gen X, and millennials.
Uh-huh.
Turns out baby boomers did it 69% of the time.
No pun
No
intended.
pun intended. Gen Xers 50%, 56%,
Uh-huh.
and millennials 44%.
So we've learned it's a bad idea, and we're go as the generations go, we're learning not to do it as much.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. I think that's what it is.
What about if like maybe now, like because we have online dating before the internet, like all of that stuff, maybe it's just because now we have other options. I mean, we talk about it, maybe not organically, but now we have like the dating app. So it's easier to find someone outside of work. As of back then, where would you meet someone?
I think there was also this thing where, and I can only imagine because I know millennials, they get a lot of crap for a bunch of stuff, and some of the stuff wasn't all bad, but there was also, you can't do what you did maybe 20 or 30 or 40 years ago.
Hmm.
You can't do in the workplace anymore.
Yeah, like dating your secretary. Back then, if
No, well,
if you found out it was
you
fine, now you
you
get.
could, but the problem is like if somebody's harassing you,
Mm,
back then there really wasn't much you could
right.
do. It's just like, hey, don't worry about it, or I don't know what you want us to do, or whatever,
Go find another job.
yeah, or something like that. They
Yeah.
almost shamed people. It's like,
Yeah.
well, maybe you shouldn't wear skirts like that, or whatever
Oh,
nonsense that they would say, right? So it wasn't as it is now, right? And we
yeah.
learned over time that like, yes, office romances do happen, but people get harassed as well.
Yeah.
And so I think what ended up happening for the millennial guys when they were like, we can't do that. Like, no, buddy, those days are gone.
Yeah.
The boomers messed it up for you because they were already married when they were doing
Mm.
Gen Xers. Nobody cared. They got married and they got divorced. They'll be fine. But you guys know you're not
Mm.
allowed to do that. So I think that's what's happened now. And who knows? I don't know. Maybe it might change eventually again too. But yeah. So
Yeah.
office romances. So do you want to solicit office romances?
Yeah, maybe not the affair part because that's sad. I
No,
don't.
no, not the
Yeah,
affair
but
part.
like if you had maybe I don't know something funny that happened, or maybe you had a bad experience and you
Mm,
want to tell us, we want to hear from you guys, and
yeah.
yeah, email us, let us know, and
Yeah. Here's the thing 214 at gmail.com.
yeah, and
So,
we'll follow us on Facebook if you'd like. We got a
yes,
Facebook page, and
absolutely.
we'd love for you to tell a friend if you like the show. Spread the word.
S-
You
Spread the
heard.
gospel.
You heard.
And don't date your coworkers.
Yeah.
But anyways, it's a really good conversation. I learned a
Yeah.
lot, and yeah, not to date your coworkers at the end of the day. Just go on to dating apps.
Yeah.
It's easier, it's safer. But anyways, good conversation.
Yeah.
Thank you much.
Thank
All right,
you.
talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.